for a shot at giving my wife and daughter $100 million life, I, a chief financial officer, took the fall from my CEO and went to prison. After a 10-year sabbatical at Blackwood Federal Penitentiary, I was finally coming home. But when I pushed open the door to my own house, I saw my little girl on all fours with a strange boy riding her like a pony. A white-hot rage consumed me, and I sent the little bastard flying with a single kick. My name is Michael Thompson, and this was my last day at Blackwood. Tomorrow, I'd be a free man. The other inmates were happy for me, slapping me on the back one by one. Stay out this time, Mike. Don't come back. Before I left, a few of the white-collar tycoons I'd done time with pulled me aside. They ran legitimate companies on the outside now and want to know if I'd be their CFO. Starting salary, $500,000 a year plus equity. In the world of high-stakes finance, a 10-year stretch at a place like Blackwood speaks volumes. It's a credential. They all knew just how much authority I wielded in my field. I just smiled and shook my head. 10 years was enough. What I didn't tell them was that for taking the rap from my old boss, the billionaire CEO had arranged for a $15 million wire transfer directly into my wife's account. I had it all planned out. Once I was out, I was hanging on my cleats for good. No more creative accounting, no more 60-hour work weeks. I was going to find a small storefront near my daughter's school and open a little diner. For the rest of my life, I just wanted to make a modest living, spend time with my wife and daughter, and live quietly. I'd even taken a culinary arts program in prison, specializing in baking and breakfast prep. I knew I had the skills to make a diner work. And besides, even if the diner failed, we had $15 million in the bank. I hadn't told my wife I was getting out today. I wanted it to be a surprise. But the surprise waiting for me wasn't joy. It was pure, unadulterated horror. 10 years, and she was still living in our old house. It was a sprawling 5,000-square-foot home in a wealthy Chicago suburb that I'd bought with my bonus check the second year I made CFO. Cash. Picturing my wife and daughter waiting for me inside, I pushed the heavy oak door open, my heart hammering in my chest. "Megan, I'm home." "Hannah, Daddy's home." Suddenly, a choked, tearful cry split the air. "Daddy, Daddy, help me." I froze. My duffel bag slipped from my hand and hit the marble floor with a dull thud. I stared, unable to process the scene in front of me. My precious daughter, Hannah, was on her hands and knees, being ridden like an animal. On her back was a chubby little boy, one hand yanking her hair, the other whipping a feather duster against her small frame. He was shouting excitedly, digging his heels into her sides. Giddy up, run, you stupid horse." "What, Daddy?" "My mom said your dad's still eating slop in prison." "Go faster. If you don't get dinner tonight." I saw the tear streaks on my daughter's face, and my world went red. All reason, all restraint, vanished in a wave of incandescent fury. I lunged forward and drove my foot hard into the little boy's side. 10 years in Blackwood had scraped away the soft-handed office worker I used to be. The kick sent the kid flying like a rag doll, and he landed in a heap in the corner with a shriek. I dropped to my knees and swept my daughter into my arms. "Hannah, it's me, it's Daddy. I'm home." Daddy, you're finally back." She'd buried her face in my chest and broke into heartbreaking sobs. Clutching my bruised and weeping daughter, I started for the stairs, heading for the master suite on the second floor. Suddenly, a tiny hand tugged at my sleeve. "Daddy, I don't live upstairs anymore." "What do you mean, sweetie? Where do you sleep?" She flinched, then pointed a trembling finger toward a small door tucked away by the kitchen. "The maid's quarters. Mommy said Cody is younger than me, and he's a guest, so I have to be nice to him. My room is his now. Grandma said I'm still little, so I should just squeeze in with a nanny." I was shaking with rage. "Megan, goddamn you, Megan. I gave you $15 million to take care of our daughter, and you have her living with a hired help?" I carried Hannah toward that dark, narrow room. The air was thick with the smell of mildew. In a space no bigger than a walk-in closet, there was only a single wooden cot. Next to it, leaning against the wall, was a rolled-up sleeping mat. Hannah wiggled out of my arms, expertly unrolled the mat onto the cold floor and patted it. She gave me a weak smile. "Daddy, come sit. This is my bed." My voice was a raw, choked whisper. "Hannah, you sleep on the floor?" "Every night." "Didn't Mommy buy you a bed?" Her lip trembled. And he said I was a waste of money, that all the family's money had to be saved for Cody. There wasn't any left to buy me a bed. I took a deep, ragged breath, the sound of my teeth grinding loud in the silence. Hannah had been the center of my universe. I'd assembled her crib with my own 2 hands. Her princess bed, the one I'd had imported from Italy just before I went away, had a mattress that cost over $10,000. And now, my princess was sleeping on a filthy mat like a beggar. I looked at her hands, which I remembered as soft and chubby. They were now red and raw, her fingernails packed with dirt. Faint scars from burns and cuts crisscrossed her skin. Before prison, she had been a healthy, happy little girl who always smelled of baby powder and sunshine. Now, she was rail-thin, her skin sallow. There was no meat on her bones. Her hair was matted and dull, and the faint outlines of 2 handprints were still visible on her cheeks. She was wearing a faded, ill-fitting school uniform, and the flip-flops on her feet were clearly adult-sized hand-me-downs. My daughter, a $15 million heiress, had been abused into this state. I bent down, scooped her back in my arms, and forced my voice to remain steady. "Don't you worry, Hannah. Daddy's going to get your princess room back for you." I strode toward the main staircase. Just then, the front door opened again. It was Megan, her arms loaded with grocery bags. The moment she saw me holding Hannah, her face went white with shock. The bags dropped from her hands, spilling produce and packages of meat across the floor. Her mouth opened and closed, her eyes wide with disbelief and guilt. "Mike, why you? What did you get out?" I gave her a look as cold as a morgue slab. "This morning. What's the matter? Not happy to see me?" She shook her head frantically. "No, of course not. It was so sudden. Getting released is a big deal. Why didn't you call?" A bitter laugh escaped my lips. "Give you a heads up? So you could destroy the evidence." She looked genuinely confused. "What evidence?" Before I could answer, the little fat kid, Cody, came tearing down the stairs and shoved Megan hard. "Megan, this is my house. Get this worthless girl and that jailbird out of here. Now." Megan's eyes widened in horror, and she quickly clamped a hand over her nephew's mouth. I smiled, but it was a terrifying, mirthless expression. "Megan, I paid for this house in cash. Since when did it become someone else's?" Megan couldn't meet my eyes. Her lips trembled as she tried to explain. "Cody is my nephew, Mike. He's family, not a stranger." Then, afraid of my anger, she hurried over, picked up my duffel bag, and forced a placating smile. "Let's not talk about this. Today's a happy day. You're home. Why don't you go upstairs and take a shower? I'll go make a special dinner to celebrate." I stared at her, really looked at her for the first time in a decade. The streaks of gray in her dark hair, the deep lines etched around her eyes that made her look 10 years older than she was. I thought about her, alone with a child all these years, and a flicker of softness stirred in me. It must have been hard. I decided I would give her one last chance. I'd talk to her tonight. If she agreed to send her brother and his family packing and start over with me, maybe we could salvage this. I carried Hannah up to the second-floor landing and reached for the door to the master bedroom. But Megan rushed forward, blocking my path. "Honey, you got the wrong room. That's not our room." I looked at her, then lifted my foot and kicked the door clean open. A man and a woman shrieked from our marital bed. "What the hell, Megan? Don't you know how to knock? Me and Joni are still in bed." Megan cut her brother off, her voice thick with embarrassment. "Kevin, your brother-in-law is home." Kevin startled, poking his head out from under the comforter. When he saw me, he just scoffed and ducked back under. "So what? He's an ex-con. Are we supposed to roll out the red carpet?" A low laugh rumbled in my chest. I set Hannah down, rolled up my sleeves, and walked to the bed. With one motion, I ripped the comforter off, grabbed a fistful of my brother-in-law's hair, and dragged him onto the floor. 10 years ago, I might have been too concerned with keeping the peace, but I wasn't that man anymore. The things I learned about persuasion in Blackwood were far more direct. Kevin clutched at his hair, spitting a string of curses. I raised my hand and slapped him twice hard across the face. The sound cracked through the room. That shut him up. "Kevin, when I'm feeling generous, I call you my brother-in-law. When I'm not, you're less than nothing. You understand? Now get your clothes on, take your wife and your kid, and get the hell out of my house." Kevin scrambled to his feet, a sneer twisting his lips. "You want us to leave? That's rich. Let me give you the real story. My sister signed this house over to me and my son years ago. So you see, Mike, I'm a homeowner now. And you just assaulted me. How about you get the hell out before I call the cops? 7. I turned my head slowly, my gaze locking onto Megan. You gave him our house. She flinched, her eyes darting away guiltily. That flicker of guilt sent a cold spike of dread through my heart. I grabbed her arm. The house is one thing. The money. The $15 million I had wired to your account. Where is it? She panicked, her eyes instinctively flicking toward her brother. Kevin burst out laughing. 15 million? Oh, you didn't know, Mike? My sister transferred every last penny into my account. Seeing the triumphant, arrogant look on his face, I lost the last of my control. My hand flew, and the crack of my palm against Megan's cheek echoed in the silent room. Is what he said true? She cradled her face, staring at me in disbelief, as if she couldn't fathom that I would actually hit her over money. Yes, money, but it wasn't just money. I remembered how I doted on her. I knew her parents favored her brother, that she'd grown up feeling second best. When she was pregnant, I'd worked myself to the bone to afford the best maternity care, the best doctors. I worried about her being alone with a baby, so I took on extra projects, worked until I got a bleeding ulcer, just so I could use the bonus to hire a nanny for her. And what did she do? She turned around and loaned that entire bonus to her brother, so he could buy a car. Even then, I just felt sorry for her, thinking she was a victim of her family's brainwashing. Even when I decided to take the fall for my boss, my biggest worry was her. And this is how she repaid me. The house I bought with my own money, she signed away without a word. The $15 million I bought with 10 years of my life, she handed over without a second thought. My hands closed around her throat, my vision swimming with red. Megan, you should have never done this. She clawed at my hands, her beautiful eyes overflowing with tears and pleading. Mike, Kevin is my brother, my own flesh and blood. You were in prison for so long. It was so much money. I was scared someone would scam me out of it, so I asked Kevin to hold it for me. We're family. It doesn't matter whose name is on the account, does it? I laughed a raw, ugly sound. I pointed at Kevin. Fina, I'm out now. I need that money for an investment. Tell your brother to wire the 15 million back to me. Right? Now, Megan, full of a naive confidence, walked over to Kevin. Kevin, transfer the money back to your brother-in-law. Show him we're not the kind of people he thinks we are. Kevin shoved her away, looking at her like she was an idiot. Are you crazy, Megan? It's $15 million. Once it's in my pocket, it's my money. Megan staggered back, her eyes wide with shock. Her lips trembled as she repeated over and over. But you promised me, Kevin. You said you were just holding it for me. How can it be yours? That was $15 million. That was 10 years of your brother-in-law's life. How? How can it be yours? No, that's Mike's money. You have to give it back. She lunged for him, trying to grab his arm. Kevin, annoyed, kicked out, his foot connecting squarely with her stomach. Megan cried out, clutching her middle as she crumpled to the floor, staring at her brother in disbelief. Kevin, that money belongs to your brother-in-law. We had an agreement. You were just supposed to keep it safe until he got out. Hearing her pathetic words, I knew nothing had changed. She was still the same person, brainwashed by her toxic family into believing that men had to be in control, that a woman's earnings belonged to the men in her life. I used to pity her. I thought she was a victim, and I fought like hell to pull her out of that swamp, to show her a better life. But now I finally understood. Some people don't want to be saved. Now I looked down at Megan, my voice devoid of all emotion. Megan, I'm giving you one last chance. Get the money back, cut ties with your brother, and we can stay married. If you can't get it back, I'll see you at the county courthouse tomorrow morning. The word divorce finally broke through her stupor. She scrambled across the floor and grabbed onto Kevin's leg, her voice cracking with desperation. Kevin, he's going to divorce me. Please, just give him the money. Kevin bent down and, one by one, pried her fingers from his pants leg. He smirked. Megan, you have always been the dumbest person I know. You were born with a pig's brain. This is $15 million. Most people couldn't earn that in 100 lifetimes. Did you really think I'd give it all up just because you asked nicely? With that, he kicked her again, harder this time. Now get up and make me some damn breakfast. I am hungry. And if you bother me again, I swear to God I'll throw all of you out on the street. Ten, her brother's words finally shattered what was left of Megan's world. She lay on the floor, howling at him in despair. Kevin, this is our house. My husband paid for this house. What right do you have to throw us out? Kevin roared with laughter. Megan, why don't you take a look at the deed for this house and see whose name is on it now? Megan collapsed, all the fight gone out of her. She looked at me, a broken, hopeless wreck, and began to sob. Mike, I'm so sorry. She lay there, a puddle of tears and regret, probably expecting me to do what I'd always done. Forgive her, comfort her, clean up her family's mess. Not this time. I picked up my daughter and, without a backward glance, walked out of the house. Did you really think, Kevin, that a high school dropout like you could con $15 million from a man who managed the finances of a multi-billion-dollar corporation? Did you really think the 10 years I spent in Blackwood taught me nothing? 11, I took Hannah and caught an Uber back to my parents' place in rural Illinois. When we got there, the house was empty. A neighbor told me my parents were out in the fields harvesting the wheat. 10 years. The old town had changed, but I found our land by memory. From a distance, I could see my 70-year-old father, his back bent, swinging a scythe. My mother was hauling bundles of wheat on a yoke, the heavy load bowing her frail shoulders. Dad, Mom, my eyes burned. I ran to them, setting Hannah down and taking the yoke from my mother's shoulders. My mom looked up, her eyes widening in disbelief and then joy. Michael, when did you get out? Just this morning. Mom, take Hannah back to the house and rest. I'll hire someone to finish this. I've been a model prisoner, and to keep me quiet, my old boss had arranged for a $1,000 deposit into my commissary account every month. I hadn't needed much inside, so I'd saved most of it. After 10 years, I had over $100,000. I got a number from my dad and paid for a combine harvester to come clear the field in an hour. As we walked home, I told him, Dad, I'm back now. You and Mom shouldn't be farming anymore. He wrung his hands anxiously. We can't do that. You just got out. It'll be hard to find a job. Megan doesn't work. Your mother and I talked about it. You got enough pressure on you. We can still work. We can support ourselves. I stopped dead in my tracks and stared at him. Dad, in all the years I was gone, Megan never sent you money for living expenses. 12, a chill colder than a winter midnight crept up my spine. When I'd arranged for the $15 million transfer, I had given Megan one explicit instruction: send my parents $1,000 every month. They were getting too old for farm work. But from what my dad was saying, they had been supporting themselves this entire time. Had Megan not sent them a single dime? Furious, I pulled out my phone and dialed her number. Megan, I told you to send my parents $1,000 a month. Did you do it or not? There was a moment of silence on the other end, then her panicked voice. I did. I gave the account number to my brother. I even told him to send them an extra $500 every month. Her voice trailed off. After a long pause, she spoke again, her tone hollow and defeated. Mike, do you think? Maybe he forgot to send the money. I laughed, a sound completely devoid of humor. He forgot? Megan, do you really, honestly believe he just forgot? Mike, don't worry, I'll ask him right now. I'll make him send the money right away. Don't bother, I said, my voice like ice. Megan, I'll be at the county courthouse at 8 a.m. tomorrow. We're getting a divorce. 13, back at the house, I immediately transferred $10,000 to my parents. Dad, Mom, Megan signed my house and all my savings over to her brother. I'm filing for divorce, and I'm suing to get my property and my money back. Her brother is the kind of trash who would do anything for money. I'm worried he'll use Hannah to threaten me. I need to leave her here with you for a little while. Once this is all over, I'll come back for all of you. When it was time to leave, Hannah clung to me, refusing to let go. She looked up at me with big, sad eyes. Daddy, if you and Mommy get a divorce, can I stay with you? My heart broke. I kissed the top of her head. Don't you worry, sweetie. I promise, Daddy will never, ever leave you again. The sun was setting, painting the sky in bloody streaks. Without even staying for dinner, I got in another Uber and headed back to the city. Megan, Kevin, just you wait. Everything you took from me, I'm going to take back, piece by piece. 14, my first call was to Mr. Sterling, the billionaire CEO who I'd done the time for. When he heard I was willing to come back to work for him, he didn't hesitate. He immediately assigned the company's entire team of top corporate lawyers to me. That brother-in-law of yours didn't just poke the bear, Mike, he said. He tried to mug it. Settle your family affairs. Your office is waiting for you. I nodded. That night, the lawyers drafted a divorce petition and a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. Luckily, I had foreseen a possibility like this. Before I went in, worried about Megan being a target with that much money, I had taken out a very special kind of insurance on the funds. The next morning, I was waiting outside the courthouse when a disheveled Megan finally arrived. The faint marks of 2 handprints were still visible on her cheeks. The second she saw me, she rushed over. Mike, please, let's not get a divorce. I waited 10 years for you. We're finally a family again. Are you really going to throw it all away for a little bit of money? Her loud accusations drew stares from passersby. Hey man, that's cold, one guy said. She waited for you for 10 years while you were in prison, and the first thing you do is divorce her? That's messed up. Yeah, what a jerk, another woman chimed in. He does a decade in the slammer, leaves her to raise a kid alone, and now he's mad she spent some of his money? Lady, you're better off without him. Hearing the murmurs of support, a flicker of confidence returned to Megan's eyes. She clutched my sleeve and continued her tearful performance about how hard her life had been. She thought I was the same man I used to be, the one who would always forgive her, who would always clean up her messes. I laughed coldly and ripped my arm from her grasp. I raised my voice so everyone could hear. A little bit of money? Megan, while I was in prison, you transferred my house and $15 million in cash to your brother. You call that a little bit of money? And you say you struggled to raise our child alone? Then why did I come home to find you cooking and cleaning for your brother's entire family, while my daughter was on the floor with your nephew, riding her like a dog? Giving him the house was one thing. But why did you give him my daughter's room and make her sleep in the maid's quarters? 15. My words hit her like a series of grenades, making her stumble backward. The crowd's tone shifted instantly. What? $15 million? And the house. She gave it all to her brother. Wow. I thought she was a devoted wife. Turns out she's just one of those people who'd ruin their own family for a sibling. 15 million. No wonder he wants a divorce. I'd do the same thing. Megan's face cycled through shades of red and white. Finally, she glared at me, her voice filled with resentment. Mike, how can you say that? I told you I was just afraid of getting scammed. I asked my brother to hold it for me temporarily. He was always going to give it back once he got out. I scoffed. Great. Then call him. Tell him to come down here right now. If your brother wires me the 15 million and signs the house back over, I'll rip up these divorce papers right now. Megan's mouth opened, but no words came out. Her face flushed a deep crimson. The crowd started chiming in again. Yeah, if he was just holding it for you, tell him to come give it back. Problem solved. It's not that simple. It's $15 million. My guess is the brother has no intention of returning it. I crossed my arms and waited. Humiliated and furious, Megan finally shrieked at me. Fine, let's get a divorce. We'll see who regrets it, Michael Thompson. The divorce was processed quickly. Since Megan had transferred all assets out of my name, there was technically no marital property to divide. As we left, Megan shot me a hateful look. Don't think you can threaten me with a divorce, Mike. I will never turn my back on my brother. He was right. Men just go crazy when they have money. I'm not going to give you the chance to take that 15 million and spend it on cheap women. It's safer with my brother. He told me, whenever you decide to clean up your act and be a proper husband again, he'll give the money back. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Megan, your brother was right about one thing. You really were born with a pig's brain. What did you say? She snarled. Nothing. Just a piece of advice. Be careful around that precious brother of yours. Don't be surprised if he sells you down the river and you're still busy counting his money for him. With the divorce decree in hand, I had my lawyers file the lawsuit immediately. Because of the massive sum involved, the court issued an emergency order, freezing all of Kevin's known bank accounts and assets. My phone rang almost instantly. It was Megan. Mike, what is the meaning of this? I told you he'd give him money back eventually. Why did you have to sue us? Kevin was yelling in the background. On what grounds? My sister gave me that money willingly. Even if you're divorced, she's entitled to half. That's $7.5 million. I chuckled. On what grounds? Kevin, you may not have much of an education, but you should understand what it means for a CFO to do 10 years in a place like Blackwood. Like the moron he was, he asked, what are you trying to say? I'm saying that destroying you would be as easy as stepping on an ant. Oh, and by the way, you asked why I'm entitled to the full 15 million? Because that money isn't my personal savings anymore. It's now classified as a contractual penalty owed to Sterling Industries. After I went to prison, to make the payment to me look legitimate on the books, the company had structured the deal as a massive $15 million advance to purchase the publishing rights to the memoirs I would write during my 10-year sentence. Of course, there was no memoir. It was just a legal fiction. As long as the money landed in my account and I served my time, it would be officially recorded as a copyright fee. But there was a catch. The contract stipulated the payment was non-transferable and for my services alone. Now, by transferring that money to her brother without my consent, Megan had committed contractual fraud. With a single phone call, Sterling Industries sued both Megan and the recipient of the funds, Kevin. After 10 years, Megan had completely forgotten about the convoluted contract she had signed to receive the money in the first place. She called me, sobbing, saying she didn't know anything about copyright fees and had no idea where this supposed book was. Mike, you have to explain to your boss. You never gave me a memoir. What am I supposed to give him? But who could prove that now? Unable to produce the non-existent manuscript, Megan and Kevin were spiraling into panic. But the worst was yet to come. 2 days later, Megan called again. The background was chaotic, a child crying, adults shouting, and the distant wail of a siren. Her tear-choked voice came through the phone. Mike, the house. You told me you bought it with cash. Why are the police saying it was a corporate property? They're saying since you don't work for the company anymore, they're repossessing the house and your Mercedes. The sheriff is here. They're going to evict us. You have to come here and explain it to them. I sat in a coffee shop across the street from my old house, sipping a latte, a placid smile on my face. Explain what? Oh, right. I guess I was just trying to impress you back then, telling you I bought it all outright. I am sorry, Megan. The truth is, the house and the car were just executive perks, employee benefits. And, after 10 years in prison, I have a criminal record now. The company obviously let me go. Since I've been fired, it only makes sense that they'd take their employee benefits back, right? 19 an hour after I hung up, the private investigator I'd hired sent me a few video clips. After the sheriff had seized and sealed the house and the luxury car, Kevin had slapped Megan hard across the face twice. With no car, the family had to walk to the edge of the subdivision to catch a cab. When a taxi finally pulled up, Megan started to get in, but Kevin shoved her back out onto the curb. There's not enough room. You can get your own cab. Megan stood there, stunned. As the taxi pulled away, she started running after it, crying. Kevin, wait for me. My purse is still in the car. I don't have any money for a cab. 10 years ago, if my brother-in-law had ever laid a hand on my wife, I would have beaten him to a pulp. But now, all I could think was that Megan's own stupidity had earned her every bit of her suffering. With Kevin's assets frozen, his family had to rely on Megan for everything. The irony was thick enough to choke on. Megan sold the gold jewelry I'd bought her to rent a 2-bedroom apartment, but Kevin and his wife wouldn't even give her one of the rooms. They took one bedroom, and their son Cody took the other. Megan, the one paying for everything, was left asleep on a lumpy old sofa in the living room. The next time I saw them was in court. Megan was wearing a faded blue dress, her hair streaked with gray, her face gaunt and exhausted. I recognized the dress. It was printed with gardenias. I'd bought it for her on a trip to Hawaii years ago. I remember on the flight over, she'd complained about how much the vacation was costing, saying the money we were spending could have bought her brother a new motorcycle. But when she put on that dress and walked barefoot on the white sand beach, she cried. She said she never dreamed she'd see a place so beautiful or wear a dress so expensive. I used to think I could pull her out of the toxic swamp of her family, that I could teach her how to live for herself. Now, I finally understood. Some people can't be saved. Worse, when you try to pull them from the abyss, they'll often drag you down with them. I'm no knight in shining armor from a fairy tale. I couldn't save Megan, so I chose to let her go and respect her destiny. 21 The court's verdict was exactly what I expected. Kevin was ordered to immediately repay the $15 million copyright fee to Sterling Industries, plus an additional $3 million in accrued interest and penalties. The house and the Mercedes, which Megan had illegally transferred to him, were returned to the company. On top of that, Kevin was ordered to pay 10 years' worth of back rent for the house and leasing fees for the car. The property and vehicle were benefits for a senior executive and his immediate family. Megan, as my wife, was entitled to use them. But Kevin, my brother-in-law, had no right to live in corporate housing for free. Megan wailed in court that Kevin was her brother, my family, and that he should be allowed to stay with them. Unfortunately for her, the court deals in evidence, not sentiment. Kevin couldn't produce an employment contract with Sterling Industries, so he was on the hook for a decade of rent on a luxury home and a high-end car. When the sentence was read, the look in Kevin's eyes was murderous. He looked like he wanted to kill Megan. Megan's face was ashen. She kept muttering, over and over, "How can a law be so heartless? He's my brother. How can they charge him for living in my house?" I just shook my head. She was a lost cause. After the verdict, unable to pay the millions he owed, Kevin was sentenced to 5 years in prison for fraud. Megan, as an accessory, was sentenced to 18 months. With both of them in jail, Kevin's wife and son had no way to survive in the city and crawled back to whatever small town they came from. Meanwhile, I drove the new company car back to my parents' home and brought them and Hannah back to Chicago with me. I had the company sell the old house. My parents were getting older, and the stairs would have been difficult for them. Instead, I bought a beautiful, fully furnished penthouse apartment in a high-rise near my new office. My daughter would never sleep on the floor again. She had her own princess room, bigger and more beautiful than the last one. My parents would never have to work another day in their lives. After 10 years away, my return to the corporate world was seamless. My salary jumped from $600,000 a year before my prison term to over $1 million now. I enrolled Hannah in the best private school in the city and sent my parents on a luxury around-the-world cruise. 2 years later, at a business gala, I met Claire, a wonderfully intelligent woman who was also divorced and single. By a stroke of fate, her daughter was not only in Hannah's class, but was also her best friend. After marrying Claire, I finally understood what a true partnership felt like. She had a master's degree from an overseas university and took the lead on managing the girls' education. I handled our family's investments. Soon, our net worth grew into the tens of millions, and we achieved financial freedom long before we had planned. After Megan was released from prison, she tracked me down. She wanted me to take her back for Hannah's sake. I didn't answer her directly. Instead, I took her to see Hannah's new life. She watched as Claire took our daughter to nice restaurants, to swimming lessons and golf practice, to horseback riding at the equestrian club. Megan broke down and cried. I asked her softly, "Do you remember the life Hannah had when she was with you?" "Megan, how dare you ask me to give you another chance for Hannah's sake?" "What kind of chance?" "A chance to hurt her all over again." Megan left that day, sobbing, and I never saw her again. I heard from a mutual acquaintance that she didn't go back to her hometown. She moved to a city down south and took a job as a live-in nanny. I hope, for the rest of her life, she finally learns to be good to herself and stops sacrificing everything for a family that never deserved her.